Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Dailies on Echo Television, where we keep you updated with the happenings in the country from our Nigerian newspaper. Quite a number of events have happened in the country where we're seeing that yesterday Ajero was arrested on his way to the airport to UK. As well, we're seeing that Syrup as well were being invaded. Actually, according to them, the DSS was in their office in Abuja asking certain questions, and they have asked the president Tinubu to talk to the DSS to stop harassing them. As well, we're seeing that the Minister of Finance, Wali Edu, has stated categorically that the VAT still remains at 7.5%. We will record that on some of the papers we saw yesterday. We're talking about a proposed increase of VAT to 10%, but then we're still seeing that Edu is emphasizing that it still remains at 7.5%. So we have quite a number of stories on the papers which we will love to review this morning. So do remember to drop your comment, your views concerning any of the story. I still have Rachel with me. Thank
Good
you so
morning,
much, Rachel.
Shirley.
Good morning. All right, we shall run through the papers and Rachel will take us through the first paper for today.
On Nigerian Tribune, VAT remains 7.5%. Edu is saying, knowing fully well that the proposal is to be implemented if agreed on 2025. NAV redeploys senior officers. In 2027, Labour Party withdraws automatic tickets for OB and OT. The big story on the paper, NLC places workers on red alert as reason for Ajero's arrest surfaces, demands his immediate release, threatens nationwide industrial action if direct DSS to end attack against us, Serap tells President Tinubu. You can find details of the big story on page 4. Sterling Bank leads with adoption of Africa's first indigenous banking system. Afenifere eulogizes Adebanjo. Man nabbed for allegedly killing grandparent and uncle in Ibadan. Federal government remands Osun traditional ruler, 4 others for alleged illegal gold mining in Ondo. You can find details of this story on page 8. Bandits attack Kaduna Hospital, kidnap nurses and patients. Those found guilty of corruption should not enjoy pardon. A statement from the AGF. Details can be found on page 2, and that's all news on Nigerian Tribune.
On Matrix newspaper, federal government exclude universities research grant from the TSA. Detail found inside the paper. As well, we are seeing 100 cap hurricane reveals Ronaldo as role model for sport lovers. You can read that on page 22. We have TUC advises special FX rate for NNPCL to fix petrol prices. The real problem is not subsidy removal, but the devaluation of Naira coming from OC4. You can read that on page 3. Labour Party's 2027 presidential ticket not reserved for Peter Obi, Julius Abure says. NIDCON to provide passenger cargo services for returning Emirates Airlines. And the big story on the paper. DSS grills and releases NLC President Ajero with the rider. I was grilled for about 15 hours. My passport seized coming from Ajero. Why DSS arrested him? This is coming from a source. Police acted on petition after it was withdrawn coming from Airpeace. Falana reveals the reason for the arrest, and as well NLC threatened action concerning that. All these stories can be found on page 2 of the paper. Nigerians' VAT revenue increases to 1.5 trillion to CIT surges to 2.4 trillion naira in the second quarter of 2024. This report is coming from the MBS. Federal government fires back at Atiku, says no plan to increase VAT beyond 7.5%. As well, we have the AGF seek to scrap pardon for those convicted of corruption. You can read that in the paper. We have the picture story released on bail talking about Joe Ajero and a DSS operative when he was released yesterday. As well, we have an entertainment story on page 21. You can do well to grab the paper, read more detail the venue of the story. That's quite of interest here.
On Voice of Liberty, federal government refutes report of VAT increase to 10%. Most Nigerians hoarding monies at home over fear of ICPC, EFCC, and other ex-AGF Agabi saying. NNPCL Chevron targets JV's 1,165,000 barrel per day oil production by December 2024. The big story on the paper: why federal government arrested NLC President Joe Ajaero. More facts have emerged on possible reasons behind the arrest and detention of the Nigerian Labour Congress President Comrade Joe Ajaero by operatives of the Department of State Services. Still on the paper, in Kaduna, bandits attack hospital, kidnap nurses and patients. Hunger behind hashtag End Bad Governance protest, PDP saying. Ohaneze youth back Tinubu's fuel price hike. DSS occupies Serap Abuja office a day after it told Tinubu to reverse fuel price hike. And that's all the news on Voice of Liberty.
On the Guardian newspaper, looming strike, Labour Security Agency in deadlock over Ajaero's arrest and harassment. Detail found in the paper. 2027, Labour Party's triple EOT of automatic tickets. You can find out on page 3. Flood killed 24, destroyed 7.8 billion naira properties in Bauchi State. Bandits invade hospital, kidnap nurses and patient, kill 7. Detail found on page 30. Reps committee accuses the BPE of wasting 10 billion naira registering two failed companies. You can find out on page 5. Tension as soldiers invade Okwama community again. Tension as soldiers invade Okwama community again, and we hope that nothing goes wrong this time around. Niger tanker explosion, death toll rises to 59, and that was what you were saying yesterday, Rachel, concerning the fact that as of then, yesterday we had just 48, but the subsequent they are beginning to see the numbers increasing. Detail found on page 30. Food prices spike amid government delay of VAT hike. Food prices spike amid government delay of VAT hike. You can find that in the paper. As well, we are having the Attorney General of the Federation moves to stop state pardon for indicted politicians. Downside of the paper, shareholders move to recover over 700 billion naira trapped in private placement. Data found on page 15. And that's all on the Guardian. But before we move on to another paper, just like we were talking about tension in Okwama, and then here we're saying that yesterday bandits invaded Kaduna again. And it broke my heart because initially the plan was to visit one of the government schools over there. And on reaching the school, they discovered that students had not resumed. The school was empty. And they decided to move into the hospital that was close by there, kidnapping about 2 nurses. And, you know, the number of patients that were being kidnapped has been undisclosed. I just can't help but wonder, what do they want with the patients? What do they want with the nurses? Are they running out of wives? Are they running out of people to help them? It might look quite funny, but it breaks my heart because I think it was yesterday during the daily when you were mentioning if there's any way there has been attack over the years in the educational sector. It has been under constant attack from bandits, from kidnappers, from various things, even from the government. The education have come under attack from them because they do not give it the needed attention that they are supposed to give it. And here we're seeing is because the school was empty, that this bandit moved into the hospital. We never can tell what is the next target again. So I'm hoping, that is why we keep calling on the government to please be proactive. I recall when the security agency, the president was saying about having certain schools, having certain security agencies submitting what you need and all of that. And we can really mention a number of schools that you don't have any presence of any security agency whatsoever. So we are calling on the government for the patients that were being abducted, as well as we're seeing that they killed about 7 already. So it's quite sad looking at the fact that they're taking out their anger because the school were, you know, there were no student whatsoever. It really breaks my heart. But we're calling on the government to do the right thing by protecting lives and property. We'll keep re-emphasizing that just in case you have forgotten the reason why you were being elected into power, you need to be reminded to please do right by your people.
The only good news would have been if there were no hospitals close by, and when they went and found out that the school was empty, they couldn't carry out their operation. But now that there are people that have fallen victim due to the absence of students in the school, you can't even say, thank God students are not being kidnapped, because now there are other people that have been kidnapped. when it comes to students, you do know that they have other plans for them. He said that they don't let them go, or they just remain with them, and then it becomes another case of hashtag free this and that, and we don't want that. At the same time, now we are having nurses and then patients, and we don't have information on on how intensive the situation of the patients that were being kidnapped. So we're looking at people who will die eventually because care is not given to them, and we don't know how quick the government will be able to get these people free. Either way is fatal. Either these patients die in the hands of these bandits or as a result of their health challenge. Exactly, Celia. And we know that in this case, it's mostly going to be a case of ransom, or these people will just die at the end of the day. But I just hope that the government sweeps in quickly and saves the situation. It's really a sad one on every level. And this is where we keep saying that the government is not doing anything about banditry, neither is it doing anything about insecurity. In my opinion, they're not putting in 100%, even 10% is not that much, because there are certain things that we should be done with as a country. There are things that we should have been. We shouldn't have hospitals under attack. We don't have schools. We should not have schools. Having NSCDC having a program for safe schools is not good enough. Knowing fully well that they are up against terrorists, it will still be in the urban area when we know that these kidnappings takes place more in the outskirts of the state, in rural communities and all of that, where people are vulnerable. So we need more hands on deck. If our armed forces, if the agencies are saying, you know what, we don't have enough hands to be able to deploy soldiers to such places, then it means there's a need for recruitment just for the purpose of having schools safeguarded, especially now that schools have resumed. Yes.
True. Well, that's all on the Guardian newspaper. Let's move on to the next paper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, federal government excludes universities research grants from TSA. The big story on the paper: NLC TUC demand immediate unconditional release of Ajero, says arrest of Ajero brazen act of lawlessness and intimidation. NLC puts all affiliates, allies on red alert, may embark on indefinite nationwide strike. Leave Ajero alone, arrest hunger, PDP tells Tinubu. Labour Party denies Obi OT presidential Guba Soul ticket. This is for 2027. Describes stakeholders summit in Abia as an illegality and nullity. You can start with the details on the front page. Osun Monarch, 4 others arraigned in Abuja over alleged illegal gold mining in Ondo. Pensioners lament harsh economic conditions, demands federal government urgent intervention. Fuel price hike, Yoruba Union tells Tinubu to resign now. Federal government boosts revenue with 4.03 trillion naira in tax collection in the second quarter of 2024. You can find details of this report on page 4, and we have a picture where we can see relief materials distributed to residents affected by the windstorm disasters in some communities of Gabasa and Manjibir LGAs in Kano State. And that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
On first news, we have 2027 election. Aburi-led LP cancel automatic ticket for Peter Obi and OTD to find in the paper. IYC calls for Wike's arrest, condemn undemocratic comments. And police to Nigerians: don't give officers bribe. If you do, don't complain to us. And so the officers should as well stop asking Nigerians for bribe. So it's both ways. You read detail of that in the paper. Soludo denies sacking 8 over, okay, there is that dance video challenge that's been going on. He denied doing that. You can do well to read more detail of that in the paper. Minister debunks VAT hike rumor, confirms rates stay at 7.5%. Tinubu government under fire for Ajero's arrest, Serap's office invasion. And then the writer here coming from the lawyer: Abacha spirit has taken over Vida. Amnesty International saying Tinubu setting new record of impunity. As well, NLC demands Ajero's immediate release as strike looms. Detail found in the paper. federal government generates 2.47 trillion naira from company income tax in the second quarter of 2024 coming from the MBS. We have the picture story where we can see the Minister of State for Environment, Dr. Adepude Saraku, alongside stakeholders and officials commemorating the International Day of Clear Air for Blue Sky 2024 in Abuja. And that's all in First News newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, fuel landing cost rises, marketers fear high Dangote petrol price. Refinery may beat down PMS price, Q reduce as depot supply product. Enugu, Bayelsa, Akwa Ibom lead as monkeypox spreads to 21 states. The big story on the paper, Ajero's arrest saga, DSS succumbs to pressure as NLC plans showdown. Labour leader released ahead of NLC's 12 midnight ultimatum. PDP Labour orders lampoon federal government over arrest and invasion. You can find details on page 2. 4 billion naira illegal arms, lawyers absent stalls suspect arraignment. AGF plans to abolish pardon for convicted looters. Gunmen kill Anambra businessman after 10 million naira ransom, dump corpse in gutter. Telecom services risks disruption as 800 workers begin strike, and that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, Osun Monarch and others range over illegal mining. We have not increased VAT rate to 10% coming from Wali Edu. You can read that in the paper. As well, we are having bandits attack Birnungwari Hospital, kidnap nurses and patients. NLC summon NEC put affiliates on alert over Jero's arrest. Amnesty, ITUC, Africa kick, DSS source explain the reason for the arrest. Serap urges Tinubu's intervention over raid on office, detail found on page 9. Concerning 2027 election, Labour Party forecloses automatic ticket for Ubi and Adex Uchi. Declares senatorial reps and other seats open to qualified Nigerians. We have a picture story where we can see pupils of a community primary school on the assembly ground during their first day of school resumption for the 2024-2025 academic session after the long vacation in Lagos Monday. You can find detail of that. You can see how happy they are to resume back in school. We hope their joy will not be cut short, that the government provide all that they need to learn. We have 47-year-old man kills grandfather. Nigeria loses 250 billion naira. And we have flood kills 2 lives and others in Kaduna. Do well to get the paper and read more detail of the story that is quite of interest to you.
On Vanguard newspaper, Naira depreciates to 1,616 parallel market as scarcity hits dealers. Bandits kidnap nurses, patients, orders in Kaduna hospital. Tinubu orders finance minister to exclude varsities research institutes from TSA. Constitutional amendment, AGF to block presidential pardon for corrupt leaders. The big story on the paper, generally released as outrage trails arrest. The writer says NLC holds emergency NEC today. TUC, PDP, Amnesty International, UAFCS, Hurua, MWUN, NUEE, others kick. We've withdrawn our 2023 petition against NLC precedent, a statement from Airpeace Airline. DSS action not connected to police invitation, a statement from Fanana alongside the NLC. Labour leaders arrest attempt to cause anarchy. Arrest poverty, hunger, not innocent Nigerians, PDP tells Tinubu. Direct DSS to end attack against us, Serap tells President. On extortion, Lagos government bans toll collection on streets. You can find details on page 14. Petrol price hike puts Nigerians and healthcare professionals at risk, and that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
Right, let's take a look at the leadership, where we have APC postpone NEC meeting indefinitely. You can read details of that on page 24. Concerning the U.S. election, Trump-Harris clash in historic debate. You can read details of that on page 4. Trending on the paper, Serap seek probe of NNPCL over pump pricing. On numbers, we have customers to pay 15 naira for 10,000 naira transfer and above to overdose on OPay and all these other ones. That is a new directive. Any 10,000 naira transfer, you're going to be having a tax of 15 naira added on it. So for all those who are using that network, or rather using those apps, you should take note of that. Nigeria loses $9 billion to foreign ship owners over infringement. As well, on 2027 Labour Party ticket, not what will be Abure declares. You can read that on page 7. Again, soldiers storm Akwama community. Death toll in Niger tanker explosion rises to 59. Bandits attack Kaduna hospital, kidnap nurses and patients. Leadership partners with the defense headquarters to counter terrorist propaganda. The big story here says Labour stakeholders threaten showdown over Ajero's arrest, with the rider demand his immediate release. DSS can't justify action coming from Falana. Serap wants Tinubu to end intimidation. Airpeace petition against Ajero's withdrawal. You can find that story in the paper. We have the picture story where we can see the Chief of Defense Staff with the leadership group, manager limited during a visit to the defense headquarters in Abuja yesterday, and that is all on Leadership newspaper.
On this day newspaper, NUPRC sets up alternative dispute resolution body, says 200 billion naira attracted for host communities development. The writer says taps Falana Osaho 25 orders as ADRC members. Komolafe laments Nigeria's low capex to oil reserve ratio. NNPC Chevron JVC converts asset into PIA terms, target 165,000 barrels per day by year end. Edo Poll INEC chair arrives Benin for mock accreditation and security meeting. You can find details on page 10. On Labour Party crisis, Peter Obi OT right INEC for validation of recent stakeholders meeting. You can start with the details on the front page. The big story on the paper, Ajero arrested, released, CSOs demand condemn action. Tinubu setting new record of impunity, says Amnesty International. Serap alleged invasion of its premises by security agencies. Serap alleges invasion of its premises by security agencies. And we have a picture where we can see the signing ceremony on conversion of the NNPC's CNLJV asset into PIA terms, where we can see the GCEO NNPC Limited Mele Kyari and Director Deepwater and Production Sharing Contract of Chevron Nigeria Limited, Mrs. Michelle. And that's all the news on this day newspaper.
Right, before we continue further with other people review, let's take a break at this moment and let you through the story. What is your own, take concerning the invasion coming from the DSS invading the office of the Syrup, as well as the arrest of Ajero, and then we're seeing that the NLC is placing others as well, those who are affiliated to them, on the red alert concerning that. Amnesty International condemning intimidation taking place in the country. And then as well, we're seeing the kidnap that took place in Kaduna yesterday. Quite sad. We'd love to have your own take concerning that. So when we come back from the break, we will continue with the paper review. Please stay tuned with us.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zuma Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories on the paper. where we're seeing concerning the VAT increase, we're having Wale Edu insisting that it's still at 7.5%, despite the proposed for 10% starting from next year, which happens to be 2025. As well, we're seeing that yesterday the DSS invaded the office of Syrup, as well as there was an arrest on Ajero on his way to the airport. So we have quite a number of stories. We would love to have your take on it. So do remember to drop your comment and your views on the story. I still have Rachel Tenzo with me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, let's take the next paper, which is the New Telegraph newspaper. Falling oil price under production threatening federal government's budget, with data found in the paper. Offshore school fees boost e-payment transaction to 96.28 trillion naira. You can read that on page 25. We have Ribado blames naira instability on fuel smuggling. Those convicted of corruption should not enjoy state pardon. Those convicted of corruption should not enjoy state pardon. Coming from Fabemi, which is Attorney General of the Federation. Concerning Labour Party, only INEC can decide legality of OT and OB's intervention. Coming from Tanko. Reps summon BPE boards over alleged wastage of 10 billion naira on 2 coins. Data found on page 5. The big story: NLC president's arrest. Ajero was watch-listed, arrested on request. This is coming from a security source. Says Labour leader handed over on requesting agency, not in DSS custody, as secret police takes over Syrup's Abuja office. NLC to take compelling action today, places workers, CSO, and Nigerians on red alert. Demands for price hike reversal, new minimum wage implementation. And we have TUC PDP slam federal government over arrest as SAN pay terrorism is a serious offense. You can do well to read that on page 2, 3, 4, and 5. NAS calls for dialogue ahead potential nationwide protests. You can read that on page 5. Even though there have been rumors that there might be another protest on the 15th of this month. So I guess that's what NAS is calling for, a dialogue ahead of that protest. Do well to read that on page 5. We have Sarah Pioneer, Africa's first indigenous core banking system. Federal government exempt federal universities institutes research grant from the TSA. Concerning 2024 flood, 24 dead, 163 injured, 122,330 houses submerged in Bauchi, coming from the commissioner. NACCIMA raised the alarm over state of nation economy. Says it's difficult time for coins, forecasts more firms will exit Nigeria as long-term outlook for economy looks bleak. Bandits attack Kaduna hospital, kidnap nurses and patients. And we have a study that says brushing teeth every day facilitate healthy heart and joints. Brushing your teeth every day facilitate a healthy heart and joint. So that is to say, you should keep brushing your teeth, brush morning, brush afternoon, brush evening if you can. Read detail of that on page 26, and that's on the New Telegraph newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, the big story: strike protest loom as NLC logs horn with DSS over Ajero's arrest, issues red alert. The writer says Maritime Workers Union condemn arrest may shut down seaports. TUC condemns arrest as clear violations of democratic rights, demand immediate release. Ajero's arrest not connected to police invitation. PDP accuses Tinubu of using security operatives to silence critics. NNPCL Limited Chevron JV target 165,000 barrel per day production by December 2024. On 2027 election, Labour Party revokes automatic tickets for Peter Obi and Alex Oti. Falana Sani Sowore orders decry DSS raid on Serap office. Nigeria signs $1 billion memorandum of understanding with CCECC for iron ore to steel project in Kogi. NLNG Nigeria's Prize for Science celebrates 20 years, names winner for 2024. Constitutional review, AGF moves to scrap presidential pardon for corrupt leaders. It's surprising that we do have presidential pardon for corrupt leaders, and I just hope that this should be scrapped eventually by the AGF. We hope to see that. More details can be found on page 2, and that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily News Hub newspaper. Why DSS operatives arrested the NLC president Ajero. Still concerning Ajero's arrest, labor spoil for war places workers in union on red alert. Nigeria risks a fresh strike and protest. DSS invades Syrup office in Abuja. We know the sponsor of hashtag #Embed Governance protest, PDP tells Tinubu. And in Edo, Guba, 4 arrested over violent attack on APC stalwart. PDP, APC make accusation and counter accusations, detail found in the paper. Ondo PDP lied, labeling Ayeda Tiwa with 0 achievements, says commissioner. Anyone convicted for corruption should not enjoy pardon, coming from the Attorney General of the Federation. Bandits raid Kaduna hospital, abduct nurses. Man kills grandfather for money ritual in Ibadan State. You can read that inside. Man kills grandfather, uncle for money ritual in Ibadan. Medical issue preventing me from having children, coming from Selena Gomsi. So that's on our international scene. Labour Party crisis worsen as Abure withdraws 2027 automatic ticket for Peter Obi and Abia governor. VAT still at 7.5%, says the finance minister. And we have a picture story. This was some of the partners, directors, and prophets at the Money Point Women in Tech 4.0 mixer held in Lagos recently. That's all on Daily News Hub newspaper.
On Daily Independent, Nigerians won't protest if their welfare is addressed, PDP tells Tinubu. Asks APC-led federal government to stop attacks on its members in Edo. You can start with the details on the front page. No state pardon for person found guilty of corruption, the AGF is saying. The big story on the paper, outrage trails arrest of Ajero, invasion of Serap's office. NLC puts affiliate unions on alert for possible industrial action. Summons emergency NEC today to take final resolutions. Demands reversal of hike in price of petrol to 617 naira a litre. TUC, CSO, Amnesty International condemn arrest. Falana, Oborisade, Akinlade urge Tinubu to stop Serap invasion. You can find details on page 29. Bandits raid Kaduna hospital, kidnap nurses and patients. Why most Nigerians save money at home by ex-AGF Agabi. Federal government excludes varsities, research grants from TSA. NNPC Limited Chevron JV concludes conversion of assets into PIA terms. Partners IJV's 165,000 barrel per day oil production target by December. And we have a picture story showing the signing where we can see Melikari and the executive for Chevron JV. Still on the paper, petrol price hike, NANS calls for increase in student loan to 40,000 naira. In 2027, Labour withdraws sole presidential Guba tickets from Peter Obi and Alex Oti. Airpeace distances self from Ajero's arrest, and that's all the news on Daily Independent.
Daily Sun newspaper, Igbo youths worried over Southeast governor silent on Nnamdi Kanu's detention. Detail found on page 4. Crackdown on NLC, Serap spark tension. Crack on NLC, Serap spark tension. With the writer saying NLC give federal government ultimatum to arrest Ajero and meet again today. Claim arrest plot to scrutin minimum wage implementation. Demands immediate reversal of petrol price to 617 naira per litre. PDP, CSO and others are furious concerning that. You can read it on page 6. No pardon for those guilty of corruption, says the federal government. Bandit kill 5, kidnap 13 others in Kaduna. Attack hospital, abduct nurses and patients and others. NECCIMA decries state of economy, exodus and closure of businesses. Shake-off as the NAF appoints new branch chief, AOC commanders and others. 26 killed, 163 injured, over 1,000 displaced in Bauchi, Kaduna flood disaster. Federal government exit universities research grant from TSA. Ocean Monarch, 4 others docked over alleged illegal gold mining. We're still having picture of students pupils in their class resuming for the academic session, getting their books ready for the session. And that's all in Dailies newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, LP withdraws 2027 automatic tickets for OB and OT. Ajero released on bail hours after arrest. Bandits abduct nurses, patients in attack on hospital. Niger tanker fire death toll rises to 59, 18 critically injured. The big story on the paper, AGF seeks end to pardon for corruption. Convict says we need law review to stop prerogative of mercy for those jailed for graft. VAT remains 7.5%, Edwin saying no tax on basic goods and services. Hajia Dada Binta Yaradua truly great, says First Lady. Varsities Research Institute released from TSA, APC shifts NEC meeting. You can find details of this story on page 4, and that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the world of business on Business Day newspaper. Dan Smith, Laffer Saplet top premium stock in 8 months. Labour threatens nationwide protests over Ajero's arrest. Direct NUPEC to withdraw petrol tankers. Direct electricity workers and doctors to shut down. This is really trying to cripple the entire economy. Dual 3 detail of that on page 31. Climate change action, how unified approach can attract global investment. Federal government eyes slice of OPay, promptly 75 trillion naira transaction. Dual 3 that on page 30. The big story, Nigerians bear burns of federal government petrol subsidy politics. You can start reading that inside the paper. We have this picture story here. Do well to grab the paper and read detail of any of the story that's quite of interest to you.
On Sporting Sun newspaper, the big story is on AFCON 2025. We're in Rwanda for 3 points. Ugwavoen is saying Rwanda will cage Osimhen, Lukman, or Marvel be captain. You can find details on page 6. Mikel dismisses suggestions over Osimhen's wage demands curtail Chelsea move. Ronaldo rates Mbappe higher than Benzema. Details can be found at the back page. Harry Kane to win 100 England cap today. PSG, Real Madrid, Bayern chasing Saliba. Todd Boehly dealt blow in attempt to sell Chelsea stake. Rodri lands 8 million euros plus bonuses Al Arabi deal. Flick named La Liga Coach of the Month for August. Van Dijk wants Liverpool stay until 2026. We have Ndombele hits out at critics. PSG Juventus tracking Salah. Inshuti vows to nil Super Eagles in Kigali. Details can be found on page 6. Osimhen 100% sure of Lukman as next CAF player of the year. Rabiot wants £200,000 weekly from Arsenal or Spurs. On ATP rankings, Sinner creates massive gap to new world number 2, Zverev as Djokovic falls. More details can be found at the back page, and that's all the news on Sporting Sun newspaper.
On the Metrics Sports News, we have AFCON 2025 qualifiers, Super Eagles battle ready for Rwanda. This is coming from a call detail found inside the paper. And we have 100 cap, Harry Kane reveals Ronaldo as role model. Slay Uganda Olympia Rebecca for burial September 14. Zidane hit at return and meet Manchester United links. You can find that in the paper. And that's all on the sporting news as well as how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you so much for our followers, our supporters, as well as to the entire production crew. Until we come again tomorrow, please do have a great day ahead.